A fire causes $1.5 million worth of damage at a construction site in Lake Delton. We have the very latest from first responders live from the scene.
And the day we've been dreading weather-wise is here. We'll share how streets crews are preparing for the April snow and what you should expect in your Alert Day forecast.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Ah, yes, some more snow. Good morning, by the way, and thanks for joining us for News 3 Now this morning on this Wednesday, April 10th. If we have to have a really cold, snowy, rainy day, we're starting out pretty nice with that sunrise.
Yeah, actually delayed the onset of the precipitation a little bit this morning, so it will not impact the morning commute. But take a look at this view from our Queen Bee Radio Skycam in Platteville. Kind of a nice shot there, but a little ominous. We're looking towards the east. You can see those clouds moving in from the west. You know what they say about red sky in morning. Here's a look at the radar map. That rain and snow is getting pretty close to our far southwestern viewing area. It's just west of the Mississippi River Valley this morning. Zoom the map out a little bit and you can see that it's a fairly sizable band of rain and snow that is working its way across Minnesota and Iowa this morning, headed into southern Wisconsin. But again, delayed the start time, probably making it to the Madison area around the lunch hour. So no issues with the morning commute. Our temperatures aren't going to go too far today. Yesterday we were in the 60s. Today we'll be in the 30s. 30 degrees colder today. Highs right around 39 degrees. That east wind will be increasing as well to 10 to 20 miles per hour. Now on the roads this morning, things have been pretty quiet around here so far. We'll check the maps again. Yeah, just a few brake lights showing up on Stoughton Road right around the Beltline. That's the usual crowd for this time of the day. Otherwise, no accidents to report. Travel on the interstate still looking good. I would plan some extra time, though, to get home later on today from school and work. We're still likely to see a mix of rain and snow here in Madison, especially places to the north.
Sometimes that mix is just even worse
That's
than
right.
what we normally think.
I know.
Slushy.
It's a little tricky to predict how much is actually going to stick to the roads because the pavement's pretty warm.
Yeah.
With 60s and 70s the last couple of days, but on the grassy surfaces, could see some of that snow sticking.
Ugh. All right, thanks for the heads up, Hads.
You're welcome.
So the big story into the Channel 3000 Alert Center this morning comes from Lake Delton, where an apartment complex that was under construction is now seriously damaged by a fire.
We are getting our first look at the scene where we find Josh Spreiter this morning. Josh, what can you tell us?
Good morning, ladies. The good news is no one was hurt in this fire. The bad news is there is nothing left of this building that was under construction. We'll give you a closer look right now. All that's left, as you can see, some smoldering and some smoke as crews try to take care of any of those hot spots. We're located on Grand Canyon Drive near Lake Delton, and those this was apartment building that was under construction and was fully involved. We'll give you a closer look at what this looked like earlier this morning. Now, crews were called here just after 3 o'clock for a fire for this two-story apartment building that was under construction. Now, it took crews around a half hour to get the building under control, and out of abundance of caution, the neighboring apartment buildings were actually temporarily evacuated, but those people were allowed to return a short time later. They said because the fire was so high and so big, they wanted to make sure that they were safe when it came to that. But yeah, back out here live this morning, you can see there is literally nothing left of this two-story building that was under construction at the time. Again, a two-story apartment building under construction, so nobody was in there at the time. It was unoccupied, but obviously there is nothing left, and crews say that there's around $1.5 million in damage, and the cause of this fire is still under investigation. We're going to stay out here and bring you any updates as soon as they become available. You can also look for them on channel3000.com. Back to you.
Boy, lucky that was empty.
Yeah.
All right, Josh Spreiter reporting live for us. Thank you, Josh.
There is an update to share this morning about the crash that shut down John Nolan Drive yesterday morning. A 33-year-old woman is in the Dane County Jail on suspicion of her third OWI, and police say a 10-year-old child was also seriously hurt when the car rolled over several times and took out a light pole on John Nolan. The crash happened just after 3 a.m. yesterday. The road was closed in both directions for about 4 hours. Police were initially searching for that driver, Joanna Phillips, but later learned someone had brought her and the child to the hospital.
Into the Channel 3000 Alert Center overnight. Janesville police are asking for your help in identifying 3 people caught on camera stealing from Target. Police say they were in the store on Humes Road for just 3 minutes, and in that short time, they went to the food area and took a shopper's purse. They left in a 4-door black BMW with black rims and dark tinted windows. Anyone with information, anyone who might have been there and saw something, should give the Janesville police a call.
Gun manufacturer Remington is asking the Supreme Court to take on a lawsuit involving the families who lost loved ones in a shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary. Last month, the Connecticut Supreme Court allowed a lawsuit against the company to move forward, and now Remington wants the highest court in the nation to rule on the state's interpretation of a federal statute giving gun manufacturers immunity from lawsuits linked to injuries in criminal cases like this one. Remington manufactured the AR-15 rifle that the gunman used in the 2012 shooting that killed 20 children and 6 adults.
New this morning, health officials are warning of a serious global health threat from a drug-resistant superbug fungus. Sounds terrifying. The CDC says the fungus, called Candida auris, has already made hundreds of Americans sick since it was first identified back in 2009. The fungus preys on people with weakened immune systems and can cause different types of infections in the bloodstream, wounds, or ears. It's transmitted in healthcare settings, spreading from person to person, or through contact with contaminated surfaces. Healthy people who have strong immune systems might carry the germ without actually getting sick from it. Officials say the fungus is growing more resistant to antifungal medications and can become deadly.
There are no confirmed cases of the bacteria here in Wisconsin, but health officials across the country are working to stop the spread of an E. coli outbreak and figure out what's causing it. The CDC now says 96 people have been infected in this latest outbreak. That's up 24 cases from Friday. 11 of those people have been hospitalized. Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, and Ohio are reporting cases. Symptoms of E. coli usually occur 3 to 4 days after the consumption of that bacteria.
6:06 your time now. An unopened ballot over in McFarland could change the results of the race for village president, decided by just one vote last week. Later today, the Board of Canvassers in that town will meet to talk about the next steps after that ballot was found unopened and uncounted. The village administrator says the election results are currently up for reconsideration. In the race for McFarland Village President, Brad Zaboter beat Carolyn Clow by just one vote last week, so this ballot could be the difference. More local news now. Columbia County has no district attorney this morning after the person recently appointed to that position resigned yesterday. A sign was posted on the office window on Monday saying there wasn't enough staff to stay open. That sign was still up yesterday. We have now learned DA Tristan Egan submitted her letter of resignation to the state, describing the workplace as a toxic environment where she was met with opposition by others in leadership positions. Back in February, the Columbia County Sheriff's Office investigated alcohol use within the DA's office, and the county is now looking into alleged harassment. In her resignation letter, Egan said she did not know what that harassment complaint was about.
6:07 right now, and the state Supreme Court will hear arguments in a case that could require the state superintendent to get the governor's permission before making new rules for schools. This all goes back to a law passed in 2011 that required all state agencies to get the governor's approval before writing regulations. 5 years later, the Supreme Court found that did not apply to the state superintendent. But in 2017, Republicans in the legislature pushed a new law through that makes it so agencies have to get permission from both the governor and the Department of Administration. A conservative-leaning law firm has now asked the state Supreme Court to make it so those new requirements do apply to the superintendent.
Okay, so in case you're curious what day it is, the forecast has us double-checking our calendars too, don't worry. Yes, it is mid-April, and yes, snow is on the way.
Yeah, sorry to break it to you. Snow this late in the season has city crews dusting off those plow trucks and getting the salt ready all over again. Christina Laurie is live out on the patio this morning with an update on conditions out on the roads. And Christina, we could see an inch or two of some precipitation out where you are.
This patio could look a lot different later today when you're watching the night shows. This, we're told, is the calm before the storm. City officials have been monitoring conditions, especially that rain-snow line, when they're anticipating this forecast. Snowplow and salt truck drivers have been busy starting trucks up and checking the units over as they've had a nice break over the past few weeks. One of the last things working in the city of Madison's favor is the warmth and sunshine we've had so far this month. That means the ground has warmed up, so any snow that does fall should melt on contact. Brian Johnson with the Madison Streets Division says if it does get cold enough where snow starts to accumulate, they'll be ready to clear it, just like with any winter storm.
We stay up to date on the weather. We don't really pack all of the plows away until about May 1st, give or take. And even then, a May snowstorm even isn't really that unheard of. So we have to stay ready just in case something comes up, where we can get the plows popped on the trucks if we need to and take care of the problems when they come.
Madison says the city's salt and sand supply is still strong, so they're not worried about that. He just asked that you remember your winter driving skills, respect the space of any crews you might see out on the roads working to keep you safe. Of course, they're hoping none of this becomes a problem, especially because street sweepers have already been out for the past few weeks trying to do a one pass overall on the streets, so they'd have to go back and do all that work again. But regardless, make sure you grab an extra coat. I forgot my gloves this morning. It wasn't a good call.
Right there with you, Christina. I forgot my winter coat, but at least I'm not standing out on the patio right now.
Feel bad for Hattie.
Oh, yeah, that's true. All right, Christina Laurie updating us on the streets crews work. Thank you, Christina.
In solidarity here, Christina. All right, even though the snow is coming, yes, it's coming, there are some signs of spring popping up around here. Crews are working on getting park piers in place so we can get out for some sunbathing and kayaking, at least eventually, right?
Yeah, definitely not today. It's an alert day for cold temperatures, plus a nasty rain-snow mix starting later this morning. Eddie has all those details when News 3 Now This Morning returns.
Mary McFerry's back in play.
Good morning from the Hattie-O patio. A beautiful sunrise this morning across southern Wisconsin with clouds moving in from the west. Take a live look from the WISC-TV Skycam. Lots of pinks and oranges in the sky this morning, but again, that means that inclement weather is on the way for southern Wisconsin. We'll look for rain, snow mix to develop a little bit later on this morning. 2 alert days are in the forecast today and tomorrow. This weather is definitely going to impact travel around the area. A mix of rain and snow developing this morning with some slushy snow accumulations by tonight. Amounts are generally going to be pretty light here across southern Wisconsin and mostly on the grassy surfaces, but there could be a period of some sleet or even a little bit of freezing rain later tonight into tomorrow morning. So there may be some slippery spots on the roads. We should change over to all rain for tomorrow afternoon with some thunderstorms possible as well. This storm has prompted a winter weather advisory that is not in effect right now, but it'll start at 10 o'clock tonight and go through 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, areas north of Dane County. And again, that's for the risk for freezing rain and sleet with a little bit of ice accumulation possible. Here's a look at snow accumulation. Expected to be on the light side here in Madison, but amounts do increase as you head into the central part of the state. We could see a couple of inches of slushy snow accumulation from the Dells and points northward. Here's a look at the radar map this morning. That rain-snow mix is getting a little bit closer each time we pull up the radar map. It's a fairly narrow band of precipitation, but it will slowly work its way through the area. So once we see some rain, snow move into the region, expected to continue right into the afternoon and evening hours. Weather track will show you that clouds are definitely on the increase here in southern Wisconsin, so this beautiful sunrise is going to be replaced with cloudy skies. Temperatures are generally in the mid-30s. The Dells are right at the freezing point with 32. 34 now here in Madison, 35 in Platteville, and 36 in Janesville. Future track will show you as that precipitation moves in, it actually begins to cool the air a little bit. So even though temperatures are technically above freezing, we still could see some wet snowflakes coming down through the afternoon. And that scenario continues, so it will impact the evening commute tonight. A rain and snow mix, even a little bit of sleet possible overnight tonight, but eventually it gets into the 40s tomorrow, and that leads to all rain across southern Wisconsin. We're likely to see more rain than snow in most locations, and some spots could be up around an inch by the time we get to Friday morning. Here's a look at your extended forecast then. We have temperatures that will stay on the chilly side. It'll be quite windy as well with an east wind today and tomorrow, even into Friday. Highs only in the mid-40s Thursday and Friday. Sunshine on Saturday, but on Sunday, it looks like another storm system may clip the southern part of the state, so had to add a chance for rain back into the forecast on Sunday as well. Let's get a look at those traffic maps now with Josh Tim. Good morning, Josh.
Yeah, it's a quiet start on the Beltline this morning. Really nothing to slow you down yet in either direction. Other roads here in Dane County not looking too bad, just some of the usual slowdowns beginning to pop up on Verona Road near the Beltline ramps. Everything is moving well downtown so far. Look for it to get busier over the next hour or so. And other routes coming into Madison, they're moving at the usual speeds with no major crashes or issues. Your first alert traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Hattie. So a lot of you might have opinions on this topic here. The DNR will meet again today to talk about renovating some of our favorite state parks and keeping beaches clean and open. At the top of the agenda, though, today is the state's elk population and the annual elk hunt. Current regulations do allow an elk season to happen if 2 herds up north reach 200 and 150 animals respectively. Then the harvest is set to equal 5% of that population. The DNR will also talk about some upgrades to facilities at Devil's Lake State Park and some small changes to rules surrounding deer and turkey season.
Next time you're out at a park with the family, you might notice a rain gauge in one of the shelters. It's part of the city's plan to monitor rainfall and watersheds here in Madison and prepare for future flooding events. Most of those gauges will be at shelters at those parks. Others will be installed at city-owned golf courses and fire stations. Those will start going in this month and stay in place through November. Madison's Board of Parks Commissioners will talk about that at its meeting tonight.
After the last 48 hours of sunshine and mild spring-like temperatures, we do finally all remember what it's like to get some fresh air. And this morning, there's research to back up all the good vibes you feel after spending some time outside. A new study says a 20-minute stroll in nature can help reduce stress. Researchers are calling it nature's pill. They had participants take a walk outside at least 3 times a week and found the stress hormone cortisol was cut by 10% on average.
And if you're a boater, here's another reason to get outside. After today, that is. City parks are installing piers on Lake Mendota and Monona. Yesterday, crews installed piers at Olin, Olbrich, Tenney, Warner, and Marshall parks. The city says it hopes to finish installing piers at all the other parks over the next few weeks. A sure sign that summer's on the way.
Gosh, I certainly hope so at this point. All right, 6:19 right now. There's a People Helping Animals Who Help People story coming up after the break. We will update you on the police K-9 who was stabbed by a suspect in Green Bay and the community support he's getting to cover some of his medical procedures.
First, though, hopefully you noticed that gorgeous sunrise over our shoulders.
My goodness.
Yeah, there it is outside Platteville this morning. That's going to turn to a cloudy sky with a chance for rain and snow later this morning. Hattie's going to update us on her alert day forecast when News 3 Now This Morning returns.
Good morning from the News 3 Now First Alert Weather Center. Take a look at this picture. Queen Bee Radio Skycam for the win this morning. Beautiful colors on the sunrise as clouds move in ahead of a rain-snow mix. So soak that up. It is certainly not going to be that pretty in just a couple of hours in Platteville. Here's a live look at Doppler track showing you that the rain and snow is not too far away, just a few miles. It will be continuing to lift to the north as we go through the morning. So rain-snow mix will head through southwestern Wisconsin, making its way towards Madison by lunchtime. 34 right now in the capital city, 35 in Platteville, 32 in the Dells. It's a little chilly outside. Winds will be increasing today, so it's definitely going to be cold through the afternoon. At the bus stop, it'll be dry this morning, but plan on bringing a few extra layers today. It's going to be chilly with a mixture of rain and snow on and off throughout the day. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Hattie. 6:23 your time now. Researchers on the UW campus are getting closer to a blood test for colon cancer. This is a big deal since it would add another method to help increase screening rates while decreasing overtreatment for one of the most common types of cancer and the third deadliest for men. Right now, a colonoscopy is still the best test for the cancer. Exact Sciences, based here in Madison, also offers a take-home screening. We do have an update this morning on the Green Bay police canine who's recovering from stab wounds after an arrest earlier this week.
So Pyro is out of 2 emergency surgeries. He is in stable but critical condition this morning. However, the community is pitching in to help him recover. A business called Global Recognition Incorporated designed some T-shirts that support the department's Canine Fund. They've already received 750 orders from across the country. Wow.
We've received just about every state has reached out at this point, and there are individuals all over following the story.
Then a Facebook fundraiser has already collected more than $36,000 to help pay for Pyro's medical bills. The leftover funds will go toward buying trauma kits for all 7 canine units at the Green Bay Police Department.
Poor doggo. Glad to hear he's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing
stable,
all right.
At least.
And my goodness, there are people around the country watching this. This is pretty cool, rooting them on.
What did you call this? People helping people who are helping dogs?
People who help dogs who are helping people.
There you go, people.
Good juju.
It's the kind of news
Send
we
it
like
to
to
Pyro.
cover. It's 6:25 your time now. First responders will be at the state capitol today, lobbying for money and more changes to help promote highway safety.
We'll have more on that. And for any of you who rely on TurboTax or H&R Block to help you file taxes every year, there is an effort to block the IRS from creating a free version of tax preparation software. The day's top stories are next on News 3 Now this morning.
Today, we will learn who Wisconsin voters are considering for the 2020 presidential election when the latest Marquette Law School poll is released.
Breaking now, we're getting our first look at what a 2-story apartment complex looks like after it was destroyed overnight by fire. I'm Josh Ryder live in Lake Delton with those latest details coming up.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning and welcome to the final half hour of News 3 Now this morning on this Wednesday, April 10th. We're going to get to Josh with an update on that fire that just completely destroyed that empty apartment building overnight. But to the other top story of the day, the weather.
Yeah, and don't be deceived by the beautiful sunrises we are seeing because Hattie McLean's got something very different in store for us this afternoon. Hey, Hads.
Good morning. Yeah, we have a beautiful sunrise across parts of the area early today. In fact, let's take a look at that right now because you can't just look at this enough. The Queen Bee Radio Sky Cam in Platteville catching amazing colors to the sunrise this morning, but a little ominous with those clouds thickening up to the west. The rain is not that far off. Here's a live look from the WISC-TV Sky Cam. Not quite as pretty, but the sun is up this morning. Skies will turn cloudy pretty quickly today. Here's a look at the radar map. And again, you see that rain-snow mix just approaching the Mississippi River Valley right now. It is a fairly narrow band of precipitation, but it will continue to lift to the north and east. We've delayed the start time on the precipitation, so it looks like you shouldn't have too many issues getting to work, but getting home might be another story. You'll want to plan a little extra time for that. Temperatures will hold just above the freezing point today, but with that precipitation falling, that will actually cool the air a little bit. So some wet snowflakes are possible even into the afternoon for southern Wisconsin. Let's take a look at your first alert traffic maps this morning. And again, with things staying pretty quiet right now, there aren't any issues on the roads, no accidents to report either. So it looks like you're still going at posted speeds as you head into Madison.
That is excellent news there, Hattie, especially considering the John Nolan situation yesterday.
Yes, and we'll have to remember those winter driving skills a little bit later on today.
All right, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
6:31 your time now. We start this half hour in Lake Delton, where a group of tenants is back in their homes after being evacuated overnight for a fire next door.
Josh Spreiter is live from the scene there with the very latest. Josh, what can you tell us?
Lee and Danica, the good news is no one was hurt. The bad news is that complex was destroyed. We're now getting our first look at what damage was done this morning as we're getting more daylight out here. We are just southeast of Lake Delton on Grand Canyon Drive. This building was actually under construction at the time, so nobody was inside during that fire. Still a lot of smoldering and smoking on scene hours after crews got the fire under control. We'll show you what things looked like here earlier. This is what the Lake Delton Fire Department responded to just after 3 this morning. Crews found the 2-story apartment complex under construction fully engulfed by flames. Because of the size of the fire, other departments were called in to help, and they started to evacuate some of the surrounding apartment buildings and homes that had people in them. But as crews gained control of the fire around 30 minutes later, those people were returned or allowed to return to their homes. Back out here live this morning, investigators are still trying to figure out what started the fire, but they estimate around $1.5 million in damage was done. And again, that fire is still under investigation this morning, and this fire was just substantial. I mean, we could smell this going from about a few miles south of the interstate, ladies. So definitely a lot of work to be done here in Lake Delton.
Yeah, they had this fire out in a half an hour, but obviously things still smoldering there. We will certainly keep an eye on it. Josh Spreiter reporting from Lake Delton this morning. Thank you, Josh.
In other news this morning, Wisconsin's governor and lieutenant governor are on the move. To hear what you think about plans to spend your taxpayer money on health care, your kids' schools, and the roads you drive on. They're headed to Kenosha right now, the latest stop on their budget tour around the state. There are also a number of public hearings across Wisconsin to get more feedback on the budget. Legislators will be in Oak Creek today to hear from taxpayers there. Just last week, they were in Janesville to hear from people in our area.
You could see your property taxes go up under the governor's budget proposal, but not as much as they would under current law. That is according to the Legislative Fiscal Bureau. That group estimates under Governor Evers' budget, property taxes will go up 2% in 2019 and 1.6% in 2020. That's about half a percentage point less each year than taxes would go up under the current law. It is still more than $100 more over the next couple of years if you own a median valued home here in the state. But the governor's budget is expected to undergo some significant changes.
Speaking of the budget, we will learn how Wisconsin voters feel about it later today when the Marquette Law School poll releases its April poll. That survey will also cover reaction to Attorney General William Barr's summary of conclusions from the Mueller report. Researchers also asked which candidates Wisconsin voters are likely to choose in the 2020 presidential race and whether President Trump should get a second term. We will have the results of that survey coming up on channel3000.com right after they're released around 12:15 today.
New this morning, a bipartisan group in Congress is working to make it illegal for the IRS to create its own free tax preparation software. That technology would save millions of Americans from spending money on sites like TurboTax, H&R Block, and other tax preparers. The nonprofit investigation group ProPublica reports that the Taxpayer First Act is the result of about $6.6 million in lobbying efforts to keep taxes complicated and prevent the IRS from simplifying the process. Meanwhile, the IRS is expected to receive an unprecedented 14 million requests for filing extensions by the tax season deadline on April 15th. That is Monday. Lawmakers say it's because the IRS is faced with more tax help questions and more complicated returns because of changes in the tax law. Some members of Congress say the number of extensions is so high this time around that they considered whether the IRS should move the filing season deadline back.
EMS departments from across the state will be at the Capitol today advocating for tax incentives to help recruit more volunteers. Those first responders will also be pushing for an increase in Medicaid reimbursement rates to support ambulance services. Then, later tonight, the Endeavor Moundville Fire Department will share their personal story about why lawmakers should make highway safety improvements. In December of 2015, one of their own, firefighter Larry Millard, was killed while responding to a medical emergency on I-39. The driver who hit him did not end up facing criminal charges. Today's conversation is at 7 p.m. at the Endeavor Moundville Fire Department. Right now in Wisconsin, there is no minimum penalty for hitting a first responder or a tow truck driver while working on the highway.
The assistant city attorney here in Madison will update alders today on possible legal action against a company that manages a troubled apartment complex on the west side. Madison officially sent what's called a chronic nuisance premises declaration to Heartland Housing back in early February. That letter specifically referred to police calls to Tree Lane Apartments. It asked the company to work with officers to come up with an abatement plan to help rehabilitate the complex or risk getting fined. The Public Safety Review Committee will hear more about that process later today.
All right, with the potential for some more snow in the forecast today, plow drivers are once again on standby.
Sorry, guys. They are ready to salt, sand, and clear roads if needed. And Christina Lauria is live out on the weather patio this morning, which, Christina, we've been talking about could be covered by a thin layer of snow or slush later on in the day. Good morning.
Good morning. Once you turn on the 4 o'clock news, this could look very white out here. City crews, like many of us, are calling this a watch and wait situation as we're waiting for that snow to roll in. But city crews say they are ready, if they're needed, to clear snow and salt from the roadways. We stopped by the city garage yesterday where drivers were starting up the trucks and running through checklists. So everything is ready to go if they must deploy the plows and salt trucks over the next few days. City officials call this a tricky situation, tricky forecast, that is, as far as where that rain-snow line is going to set up. One of the things working in their favor is the recent warmth. That means there will be a lot of melting. You can expect that, and with the expected rainfall, all that water needs to go somewhere, so that's where you come in.
If you're a resident and you live near a storm drain, just to make certain nothing's blocking it. I know it's leaf collection season now too for the streets division, so make certain none of those yard waste piles have somehow migrated in front of the storm drains, because that could certainly cause some ponding issues there.
If the weather were to drastically change, and we're talking about snowfall accumulation here in the Madison area, the city streets division says it does have enough salt and sand still readily available this late in the season, but they're hoping not to have to use it for another reason as well. City sweepers have already done one pass through all of the streets, so they're hoping that they don't have to redo all the work that they've already done too.
And Hattie is calling for this to be the worst during the evening commute today. So Christina, here's hoping you still have the scraper in your car.
It's like the first day of the season every year where everyone just seems to forget how to drive in the snow. So please leave extra time.
All right, Christina Laurie with that reminder. Thank you, Christina.
6:38 right now, and the head of the UW system is announcing new plans to deal with sexual harassment on campuses today. We'll have an update in the morning sprint.
And a new report says Wisconsin is failing when it comes to addressing lead concerns for school drinking water. More local news is ahead on News 3 Now this morning. All right, here's something parents do not want to hear this morning. A new report says the state is failing to address lead issues in your child's drinking water at school.
It also says most schools still have faucets and fountains that contain lead, and they're not required to even test for it. That testing can be pretty expensive, as we've seen here in Madison. The school district here spent $100,000 to test faucets and fountains across the entire district back in 2017. Only 97 of the 1,300 samples did come back higher than the EPA recommendations, and those water fixtures have since been replaced. That was, though, the first time Madison schools had tested for lead in decades, and most districts don't test at all. Environmental groups say it's not enough.
The problem is that across the state, we don't have requirements for testing, disclosing, and ultimately getting the lead out of our drinking water in schools.
The group Wisconsin Environment is urging state lawmakers to pass Governor Evers' budget proposal, which does allocate $40 million to support lead service line removal. Republican leaders have not said whether they'll be able to support that or pass it, but Assembly Speaker Robin Vos has created a task force of bipartisan legislators to address water quality issues.
All right, 6:42 your time now. We are finding it hard to believe snow is coming after the past couple of days in the 60s, 70s even. Well, you better believe it. Hattie says 1 to 2 inches could stick in the Madison area, even more up north. Her alert day forecast is up next.
But before that, we want to say happy birthday on this April 10th to Cole and all the kiddos turning 3 today. Thanks for celebrating with us on News 3 Now this morning.
Oh.
Good morning from the News 3 Now First Alert Weather Center. Sun is up. Clouds are moving into southern Wisconsin, though, as we speak, but we've had a beautiful sunrise. Take a look at this picture sent in by one of our viewers, Pam in Jonesdale, down by Mineral Point. Beautiful sky this morning. No snow on the ground there, but the snowmobile's still out. We could see some snowflakes coming our way later on today. Let's take a look at what we have going, though, for the weather. This is Severe Weather Awareness Week, and wanted to let you know that there's an event taking place this weekend. It is on Saturday. It's called Dark Skies, and it's at Madison College. It goes from 8:30 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. The director of the National Weather Service will be speaking, and there will also be some severe weather planning scenarios and safety talks taking place all day. The News 3 Now First Alert Weather team will be there as well. So if you want to learn more about severe weather, head over to Madison College this weekend. Now, we're talking alert days in the forecast, not necessarily for severe weather, but for weather that will impact your travel today and tomorrow. Rain and snow will develop this morning and then continue into the afternoon. Could see a slushy accumulation across parts of southern Wisconsin. Here in Madison, light accumulations mainly on the grass, but north of town, we could see some heavier snow accumulations. It does change to rain tomorrow with some thunderstorms possible. This storm, though, is a historic storm for April, and it has prompted many weather bulletins, winter weather advisories for about the northern 3/4 of the state. This is every location north of Dane County. We have winter storm warnings and blizzard warnings in effect for parts of Minnesota, back into the Dakotas, as well as Nebraska. Here's a look at your GFS Future Track forecast model. That rain-snow mix spreading from southwest to northeast through the day today, making it into the Madison area probably around lunchtime or shortly thereafter. Temperatures will hold in the mid-30s today. Overnight tonight, still that chance for some sleet and mixed precipitation, but it will change to all rain. Here's Thursday at 5 p.m. It is warm enough for rain across southern Wisconsin. Now, as the storm system tracks right across the central and northern part of the state, there will be some wraparound air filtering in cold temperatures and some snow. Best chance to see that will be north and west of Madison through the day on Friday. Here's a look at those total snow amounts, though. They do increase rather quickly as you go north of Madison and parts of Minnesota back into South Dakota. Could be looking at over a foot of snow. Here's what's happening on the radar map this morning. That rain-snow mix, again, leading edge starting to show some more snow with that band. It will continue to lift to the north and east through the day today. Temperatures are in the mid-30s in most locations this morning. We're not going to move far with those temperatures. Take a look at your Future Track forecast model. We stopped the map at 10 o'clock. That rain-snow mix moving through southwestern Wisconsin. Again, getting pretty close to Madison by the lunch hour. It will impact the evening commute with rain and snow possible for southern Wisconsin. The mixed precipitation continues tonight, but eventually changes to all rain on Thursday. Here's a look at your forecast then. As far as rain amounts are concerned, we could see amounts that are close to an inch as far as rain for southern Wisconsin. The rain-snow mix changes to rain on Thursday and then a little bit of rain possible on Friday. Staying cool, though, through this week with highs only in the 30s and 40s through the rest of the week. Let's take a look at our Pet Walk forecast.
Oh, buddy!
Harold, Madison, is that a shirt made specifically for a cat?
It's not. It does not fit him. Come on, the fur. That's adorable.
Oh my goodness. I just make to think of Chris Farley, like fat guy
in a little suit. That's adorable. Thank you, Hattie.
Love it.
Morning Sprint's coming up next here on News 3 Now this morning. 6:53, time for the morning sprint. Hattie is busy tracking a rain and snow mix headed our way.
And Josh Spreiter is live in Lake Delton, where there's not much left of an empty apartment building that went up in flames overnight. Let's start with Josh. What can you tell us?
Good morning. So crews are still looking for the cause of that fire, but they estimate around $1.5 million of damage was done. There's literally nothing left of this two-story apartment complex, which was under construction at the time of the fire. This is what the Lake Delton Fire Department responded to just after 3 this morning. Because of the size of the fire, other departments were called in to help. The fire chief tells me the wind was the main concern, as they were afraid the flames would spread to other buildings. That's why the surrounding buildings and homes were evacuated for a short time. Crews got the fire under control in about 30 minutes, and luckily no one was hurt. I'm told fire officials will remain on scene, taking care of any hot spots that come up.
Josh, thank you. In Madison, the assistant city attorney will update alders later today on possible legal action against a company that manages a troubled apartment complex on the west side. Madison did send a letter to Heartland Housing back in February asking them to work with officers to come up with an abatement plan for Tree Lane Apartments or risk getting fined. Now, the Public Safety Review Committee will hear more about that process later today.
All is quiet right now, but the rain and snow are getting pretty close to southwestern Wisconsin. This band of precipitation will continue to lift northward over the next couple of hours, making it into the Madison area right around lunchtime or a little bit thereafter. Temperatures today aren't going to move too far either, with an easterly wind. We'll be in the mid-30s through most of the afternoon, topping at 39 later today.
City crews are playing a game of wait and watch ahead of the upcoming spring storm. Crews have been extra busy this week gearing up the trucks and running through checklists after a few weeks break. One of the positive things this time of year is the ground has had a chance to warm up with higher temperatures and increased sunshine, so any snow that does fall should melt on contact. But city officials call this a tricky forecast as far as where that rain snow line is going to set up. They do have plenty of salt and sand on hand if it comes to that.
Thank you, Christina. Gun manufacturer Remington is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to consider a lawsuit blaming that company for the dozens of deaths at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Last month, the Connecticut Supreme Court allowed a lawsuit filed by families of those victims to move forward. Remington now wants the High Court to rule on the state's interpretation of a federal statute which gives gun manufacturers immunity from lawsuits linked to injuries in criminal cases.
UW System President Ray Cross will announce the UW's new role in a national effort to address sexual harassment on university campuses. That announcement will be made this afternoon on the UW Milwaukee campus. That university's chancellor will also explain their efforts to minimize sexual harassment and violence in academic departments and in Greek life.
The state Supreme Court will hear arguments in a case today that would require the superintendent to get the governor's permission before making new rules for schools. In 2016, the Supreme Court found that a law that required state agencies to get the governor's approval to write any regulations did not apply to the superintendent. A conservative-leaning law firm now has asked the Supreme Court to make it so the latest version of that law does apply to the superintendent.
An unopened ballot over in McFarland could change the results of the race for village president, decided by just one vote last week. Later today, the Board of Canvassers in that town will meet to talk about the next steps after that ballot was found unopened and uncounted. In the race for McFarland Village President, Brad Zaboter beat Carolyn Clow by just one vote. So this ballot could make the difference.
All right, it is almost 6:57 right now. Let's get one more check on traffic with Josh Tim. Hi, Josh.
Yeah, good morning. Starting to pick up now on the westbound Beltline. Usual crowd between Stoughton Road and West Broadway, but at this point it should only add an extra minute or so to your drive. Inbound side of John Nolan, you're tapping the brakes near Rimrock and Olin Avenue heading into the downtown area. And other main routes coming into Madison still moving at the usual speeds with no major crashes or delays. Your first alert traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
Thank you, Josh.
And it is the calm before the storm this morning. We're not looking at any precipitation in the area right now. Clouds are spreading in from the west, though. That sun is going to be pretty short-lived today. Here's a look at your radar map. Again, that rain-snow mix is just west of the Mississippi River Valley, getting ready to move into southern Wisconsin. It will continue to track to the north and east. We'll start to see some precipitation as we head towards the lunch hour here in Madison.
All right, grab the extra layers. Stay warm out there, folks. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one.